Check one, check two, check one, check two. Just checking on a little bit. Just kind of waiting to see what my YouTube looks like. It says I'm live, so let's go. So, Professor BlackOps, Cybersecurity for the People. I was supposed to have a guest today, but he became ill, so we're just gonna kind of freestyle it a little bit today. See if there's any general questions going on. Like I said, happy Tuesday or happy Monday. We all had a good holiday, so I was gonna go over a little bit about incident response and disaster recovery and continuity of service. So let's see, I'm checking to see if it says I'm live, so I'm just checking on my phone to make sure we're looking good. Since I have one in the box, let's see, checking. Stream is good, analytics are good, so let's see what we're doing. It's always something. Like I said, I gotta get better at my live streaming. But so here we go. So like I said, my phone doesn't so let me double check that again. See if it comes up with something different. Okay, there it goes. It says we're live. Okay, we're gonna go over a little bit. Like I said, I was supposed to have a guest today, but he's ill, so we're gonna reschedule him. So he actually is project security manager for our incident response, disaster recovery, and business continuity team. So we're just gonna go over that today. So let's hit it. I did a couple slides. So that was the gas security manager, disaster recovery, continuity of business. Right. So I was gonna do some just quick overview of what that actually looks like. So if you look on the screen, that's NIST 800-53R5. So if you look at that, there's 20 security families in there. Right, so if you look at CP, that's contingency planning. So contingency planning incorporates incident response, disaster recovery, and COOP, where you're going to put your people at. So I usually break it down into two parts. COOP is if your building gets hit, where you're going to send your people. Disaster recovery is if your computer's operation gets hit, where you're going to roll over your computers. Right, so in the NIST 800-53, that's actually contingency planning. So part of contingency planning, and we'll dig down. So there's subfamilies to the NIST documentation. So CP1 is policies and procedures. CP2 is contingency planning. And some things in there are coordination with relative plans, capacity planning, resume mission and business functions. Contingency training, right? So you got to train, you got to test it. Contingency planning testing, right? So you got to go through to test your plan, test your DR site, see if it actually roll over. Alternate systems, alternate storage site. Once again, if your primary data center is hit, where you're going to do your storage site and where you're going to move your people. Alternate processing site, telecommunications services, and system backup. Right, so and also system recovery and reconstitution. So when your system's back up in your primary building, how do you roll all those changes from your DR site and actually put them into your production site? I think a lot of people believe that it's easier said than done. Alternate communication protocols. So if your site down and your data center hit by a tornado, how do you communicate with employees? Do people have phone numbers? Is there a website, right? Alternative security mechanisms, right? So if you badge and go into a data center, do you still have the same security into your alternate site? If your people go into an alternate site, do you still have badging? Do you still have cameras, right? So if it's different setup, what's your security in that separate setup and doesn't meet the same security requirements as your primary site. So like I said, I was supposed to have a special guest, so I'm just kind of doing a little live and just kind of going over the checking it out, just trying to going over some things that are in the so in your contingency planning for your NIST 800-53R5, what does that look like? Develop a contingency planning policy statement. Conduct a business impact analysis. BI helps identify and prioritize information systems and components critical to supporting your organization mission. And template for developing a BIA is provided to assist the user. Right, so if you're a business and there's an incident or a catastrophe, are you going to run all the same services you run like your system is normal? Or if there's a disaster, are you only going to run half your businesses or 5 or 10%? The executives got to figure out what that is, and basically what is critical and what, critical means you got to run it by law, you got to run it by the statute or different things. Let me know. I got a lot of feedback. I think I got my line guy out there working. So 2 is, what is your contingency planning and protocols? Once again, there's the NIST standpoint of that. Contingency planning, training, planning and exercise. Planning update, alternate site, alternate processing site, telecommunication services, information system backup and system recovery and reconstitution. Right, so here's some of the plans you need in disaster recovery. Once again, my guest was sick today, so we're going to reschedule. So we're just talking about some things about disaster recovery and actually what does that look like. So what are some of the plans do you need in your disaster recovery to make it work? Right, so here you have a business continuity plan. The purpose provides procedures for sustaining mission business operations while recovering continuity of operations, provide procedure and guidance, and sustain an organization missionally functions, create a crisis communication plans, provide procedure and determine internal and external communication. Once again, is how do you get information to your employees if the office is down, right? Critical infrastructure and protection, provides policy and procedures protection for national critical infrastructure, and components that's defined by the National Infrastructure Protection Program, right? So if you Colonial Pipeline, what would that have been for them, right? I don't think they have any of those procedures up because why? They paid the ransomware, right? Cyber Incident Response Plan provides procedures for mitigating and correcting a cyber attack, such as a Trojan horse. So if your computer gets hit, right, this is the plan for that. How do you roll over to DR? How do you roll over to my favorite place, Amazon? How do you get people from connecting to your on-prem site to your Amazon DR site, right? Does the DNS do that for it, or do they need to go to an alternate IP address, right? Some of those things you have to think about when you're actually going into that realm. Information system contingency planning provides capabilities for recovering an information system, right? So when you recover an information system, each system should have its own plan. Does it need to go to separate URLs? Do you have username and password included into the system that you have to change when you roll over to the new system? Right, so you have IP addresses hard coded in there for web service calls. So those are some of the things at a high level you have to look at when you're doing a DR site or a disaster recovery site. Facts. CL said we should just move everything over to the cloud site. But we understand when you do that, right? There's migration plans, money, other things get in the way. But that's true. I think as things go to the cloud, it's going to be easier because those things are built into the cloud, right? I'm an Amazon guy. I'm an Amazon fanboy. So when you do availability zones built into your plan, those data centers I think are like 50 or 60 miles apart. Right? If one of those data centers goes down, it's automatically going to roll over to the other availability zones. If you architect your system right? Those are stuff you don't have to think about to just automatically include it. So I think that definitely is the wave of the future. So let's look at a few of those things. I thought I had one of the. Let's see, we're gonna do this on the fly. I was looking at the AWS. That's recovery. So AWS built in, it has it's called Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery. It's built into Amazon. You can easily set it up. So let's kind of look at this resource. Once again, I'm just kind of freestyling it. My interviewee was sick today, so I just decided to talk about DR and disaster recovery at a high level. So we're looking at AWS Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery, scalable, cost-effective business continuity for physical and virtual and cloud services. IT disasters such as data center failures, server corruption, cyber attacks can not only disrupt your business but also cause data loss, impact your revenue, damage your reputation. Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery minimizes downtime and data and provide fast, reliable recovery, physical, virtual for AWS. The cool thing is it's an AWS Gov Cloud and AWS Outpost. So if you have special requirements for FISMA, IRS, DOD, all of that, you can actually spin it up in AWS Cloud. You can also use Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery to protect your most critical databases, including Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, as well as enterprise applications such as SAP. So they automatically sync your on-prem database with your Endure in the cloud database, right? So you should not probably lose any data records. All of that's kind of built into the infrastructure. So if you're in the middle, you might lose a couple records, but the majority of your transactions would be set up and already replicated down there, right? The cloud disaster recovery continuously replicates your machines, including operating systems, system state configurations, database applications filed into a low-cost staging area in your target AWS account and preferred region. In that case of disaster, you can entrust Cloud Endure Disaster Recovery to automatically launch thousands of your machines in their fully provisioned state. Right, so that's already set up. That's already in the cloud. It'll automatically replicate to it, and then you won't have to worry about it. By replicating your machines into a low-cost staging area, while being able to launch fully provisioned machines within the minutes, the Cloud Endure Database Recovery significantly reduce the cost of your disaster recovery. Let me know if you hear that humming in the background. I think some guys are out there working in front of my house, so this is going to be a super short live. Like I said, I'm just my interview canceled because he wasn't feeling well. So here's some of the features: continuous replication, low-cost staging area, automated machines, conversion, orchestrate, point-in-time recovery, easily non-disruptive drills, wide application infrastructure support, right? So Amazon has all this stuff covered. These are all the applications it handles. I'll have the link in the description, but it handles Apache, Cassandra, HBase, Couch, Microsoft Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange, MySQL, Nginx, MongoDB, Oracle Database, Oracle ERP. So it has a lot of the things used by most companies. Standard hardware, Linux, local, Oracle ASM, RAID, SAN, operating system, Amazon Linux, Debian, Kali, Oracle Linux, SUSE, Ubuntu, all the Windows servers, and all the Windows desktop. Right, so all that's actually set up for you, already pre-built in and already for that. So let's see what the pricing is. Let's click the pricing a little bit. Cloud disaster repricing. Hourly rate per search server is 2 cents. They don't really break it down, so I'm going to have to actually dig into that more earlier. So I think as we talk about critical infrastructure for private business and government business, how do we make sure if something happens, we can roll over to a DR site and continue operations? especially since you don't have solar winds. You just had the colonial pipeline. So what do we need to get in place to make that happen? I showed you a few things about NIST. If you're doing business in the federal space or federal compliant, that actually is a security family. So that's actually going to be in your review part when you actually do it. Right, so let's see. I'm just kind of flipping through a few things. This disaster recovery. Once again, I'll put this document in here. This is kind of what I use at a high level. This actually was done in 2012, so it's a pretty old document, but for me it was super thorough. And that's some. Once again, I'll put it in a link. So type of plans, we touched on that. Business continuity plan, continued operation plan, crisis communication plan, critical infrastructure protection, cyber incident response plan. Right, so when I have my guests on, we actually dig into these a little more. Information system, we're talking about the backup and recovery, backup method, offsite storage, alternate access. So, and we'll look at a couple samples. Like I said, it's going to be a short. So this is the sample business impact analysis and template. So what's your overview? What's your purpose? Determine a mission, process and recover, criticality, identify resource requirement, and identify resource priorities for the system. Right? How's the importance to the business? Do we need it up ASAP? Right? Or is it just some non-critical? Identify the resource requirement. What system is using? What database is connected to? What do you need? Identify the recovery priorities for the system. Like again, when should it be up and how long should it be down? Right. So those are some of the things that will be in this template. Once again, I put in the description. Right. The system description, BI data collection, determine the processing system, pay vendor invoice description. Identify outage and impact and estimated downtime. Output impacts, where it's server, moderate is the table. Mission critical process, the impact category of it. What level is it? Maximum tolerable downtime. Recovery time objective. Defines the maximum time that a system resource can remain unavailable. Recovery point objective. The RPO represents the point in time prior to the disruption, right? So those are the things you put in there. MTB, maximum tolerable downtime. RTO, define a maximum amount of time the system resource can remain available. And recovery point, how much data can you actually lose when you bring this system up, right? So those are the things the business have to figure out. Identify resource requirements, web server, OS, what is it? Identify recovery priorities for the system resource. 24 hours to rebuild or replace. That's the RTO. So this is something I kind of use. A frequent question: what is the information system contingency plan? What are the differences between the COOP, BCP? So it actually commonly asked questions. So this is what I use, and this is something you can actually put in management's hands to just kind of lead them through this so they can understand what they're doing and what they're asking for from your DR and business process. How to determine which contingency solution I should implement. What type of alternative site should I use for recovery strategy? What type of alternative site should I choose? Okay, when an event occurs, who should be notified? Right, notification procedures outlined in the ICP. Coordinator should determine who should be notified. So if a laptop gets stolen, it's going to be different if our most critical system has been hacked. Right, or if our IT department tells us they believe somebody stole all the database with the credit cards and the super sensitive information, right? So you're going to let the president know, legal staff, because depending on what state you're in, if you have customers, especially if you're in California, and you lose more than 500 customer data, you actually have to let the state of California know, right? And a lot of states are actually putting that requirement in. So what is your notification chain? right? So those are some of the things that are being asked. Appendix D, personnel consideration and contingency, continuity and contingency planning, personnel safety and evacuation, personal health. All right, so there's a lot of things, personal welfare. So there's a lot of things you have to take notice of. Relationship with response organization, once again, a communication plan. So I'll put the link in the documents, and like I said, it was a high level, something super quick since my interview guy was not feeling well. We're gonna reschedule that so we get him on. That's what he does for a living, and he does it for a large state agency. So once again, we'll reschedule that and get that in here. I'm just doing something quick, like I said, just because my interviewee wasn't feeling well. Once again, Professor Black Ops, cybersecurity for the people. Have a great day.